Construction was divided between 4 teams, each tackling a quarter of the structure. The building would be constructed around a network of solid stone piers, arranged in 7 concentric rings. Each ring contained 80 pillars, and on this load-bearing skeleton of stone, the rest of the Colosseum would be built. Vaults and arches linked the stone piers together, forming the elaborate network of stairs and walkways. The Colosseum's massive stone piers are made from travertine, a sedimentary rock of great strength. It is still quarried today in the hills of Tivoli, 17 miles from the center of Rome. Great slabs of stone are prized from the bedrock. A steel sack that expands when filled with water is positioned between the rock faces. As the sack expands, the cut section is forced away. To achieve the same effect, the Romans filled their vertical incisions with dried wood, which they then soaked with water. As the wood expanded, the rock faces separated. To build the Colosseum, the quarries of Tivoli produced over 500,000 tons of travertine.
The calculations suggest you need something in the order of 100,000 cubic meters. Now that's an unimaginable sum, but if you turn this into feet and think of a block a foot by a foot by a foot, and you strung these cubic feet of blocks of travertine out in a straight line, they'd stretch for 700 miles.
In addition, 150,000 tons of the best marble were imported to Rome, either by ship along the river Tiber or by ox carts. 200 ox carts arrived at the construction site every day.
You can imagine a whole string of ox carts, nose to tail. Even if you average these 100,000 cubic meters of stone over the 8 years it took to build, you'd still need an ox cart to leave every 7 minutes. One of the most difficult things about building the Colosseum must have been raising these large blocks of travertine for the facade, which after all is, 50 meters high. And Romans used cranes, treadmill cranes, that is actually operated by manpower. So you have to imagine that the Colosseum is a building site with perhaps a dozen of these massive circular treadmills in operation all at the same time, raising these huge blocks of stone.
The stones were locked together by internal metal clamps. Shaped like spears, the clamps slotted into pre-drilled holes. A channel was then cut downwards along the join, and molten lead was poured into the cavity, creating a perfect seal for added strength and protection from corrosion. A thin layer of chalk mortar completed the join between the travertine blocks.
Dunque l'arco e la volta sono elementi strutturali dominanti.
The vaults and arches between the travertine are the dominant structural feature in the monument. These skills were inherited from the Greeks and then developed by the Romans, using new materials like concrete.
The development of concrete by Roman builders was a breakthrough technology. It enabled them to build arches of greater strength and size than had been previously possible. The concrete used in the Colosseum has an added special ingredient. In addition to the combination of lime, rock fragment and sand, it contains pozzolana, a red volcanic dust from Vesuvius. This unique material gives the concrete of the Colosseum phenomenal strength and durability.
Now, Roman concrete is a very special and rather remarkable material. It develops its strength very quickly. It will set underwater, it's hydraulic, and it also develops its strength over a long period of time. In fact, it's one of the strongest man-made materials that we have that has a proven life, quite clearly, at least 2,000 years. Because of this, it was actually tested in the early 80s for nuclear waste disposal.
When Rome finally fell in 410 AD, the secrets of concrete production died with the empire. They were not rediscovered until the Renaissance. The building of the Colosseum progressed upwards in tiers, with each tier built in progressively lighter materials. Brickwork became increasingly important, and here again, Roman technological prowess gave the builders of the Colosseum a huge advantage. In Lombardy, craftsmen are making bricks using the same methods as the builders of the Colosseum. Before Nero's reign, Roman bricks were hardened in the open air. This limited their load-bearing properties. As a result, brick buildings were restricted to single-story structures. It was not until manufacturers started firing bricks in kilns that their true potential was revealed. When clay is heated to a high and constant temperature, all moisture is driven from it. The water is replaced by gases that further harden the baked clay and cause natural pores in the material to contract, greatly increasing a brick's resistance to water and erosion. For Vespasian's engineers, the fired brick enabled them to build higher than ever before. By 79 AD, the first two tiers of the Colosseum were complete. Vespasian, his health failing, pushed his builders harder still. More slaves were bought, more labor conscripted. But to no avail. Vespasian died before the Colosseum's inaugural games. That honor would fall to his eldest son, Titus. The scale and lavishness of Titus's opening games would astound the Roman world. Like his father before him, Titus made the completion of the Colosseum a priority. In less than a year, he had finished almost all the structural work. In 80 AD, he could wait no longer. Though the Colosseum was far from complete, Titus decreed that the opening games should commence. By now, the building covered 6 acres of land and measured 620 feet by 510. Its impact was enormous.
We have from the poet Martial, who was present when the Colosseum was open, a really interesting statement of how this building was perceived. He likens it to the canonical wonders of the world, the pyramids of Egypt, for example, and says not only is this another wonder of the world, but it is the wonder to supersede all the other wonders put together. It is going to be the 8th and final and greatest wonder of the world.
Titus, the newly crowned emperor, took every advantage of the Colosseum's glamour. He proclaimed the opening a public holiday. Posters boasted that the inaugural games, scheduled to last 100 days without interruption, would be the greatest ever staged. 9,000 animals from every corner of the empire were slaughtered in staged battles. Criminals were publicly executed. 3,000 gladiators battled to the death. Women gladiators fought as a novelty to amuse the crowd. All this in the first days alone. To witness this carnage, tickets of bone were distributed to the public free of charge. Each ticket indicated which of the 76 entrances was to be used.